My name is Cherryl Galezewski. I was born Cherryl Skinner, and my middle name is Ann, Cherryl Ann Skinner. I was given the middle name Ann after my aunt Ann. And my grandma, Cora Ann Skinner. So I got the middle name. I was born in Milwaukee in the 1960s, pretty racially tense time. My parents were very young. They were 17 and 18 when they had me, and they were 18 and 19 when they had my sister, who was 11 months younger than me. We're 11 months and 3 weeks apart. I grew up in this small neighborhood. My parents quickly tried to move up and make things a little bit better. I went to church a lot as a kid. My grandfather, Grandpa Skinner, your great-great-grandpa, was a pastor. And so church was a real big part of our lives. We went frequently, and I felt very deeply connected to church. And somehow God spoke into my life from a very young age. I realized very young I somehow knew things that I knew I shouldn't know at being that young. I felt things. And I think that now, as I look back, was the Holy Spirit really speaking into my life. And somehow, even though I didn't yet understand my relationship with the Lord, God was there and He was speaking into it. Actually, when I was 8 years old, I made a decision one day in church. We heard the song, and I still tear up thinking about it. The Old Rugged Cross. And it touched my heart. And I went home and I said, I want Jesus in my heart. And my mom and dad sat with me at the bedside. And I asked Jesus into my heart. And that changed me forever. I started going to college at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I lived with my Aunt Ann and her husband Ed, which they were just across the street from the campus. And started school, liked it, but really didn't know what I wanted to do because I'd always thought I wanted to be a flight attendant. And when I went to Europe, I realized, I don't think I want to do this after I took my first flight. So now I had to rediscover what I wanted to do. And while I was away at school, my parents separated and ended up divorcing. So it was lots of change and transition. I got a job at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in the School of Business office as the receptionist. And eventually I met my husband, Rob. And that was an interesting story too. One night, a friend of mine from high school, Dawn Nunhoff, came home from Green Bay, and we were going to go out and went and visited some neighbors, and they said, hey, you guys should go to the Red Rooster, the Red Carpet Bowling Alley, has a disco there, because that was back in the early 80s. And, that's where we met, maybe. It's a great place to dance. I said, wouldn't that be weird? Maybe if I met my husband there tonight. And I did. There was an instant connection. He was a soft, tender, principled young man that I knew there was something very special. And by the next day, by the end of the night and the next day, talking to him on the phone, I knew he was the one, and he knew it too. We waited a couple of years to get married. We got married in September 1st, 1984. And our Grandpa Skinner, my grandfather, married us at the church, West Layton Assembly of God in Milwaukee. We had my grandma Skinner singing. We had my brother ushering. We had a rainbow-colored wedding because I like to have lots of color and lots of friends involved, and it was a wonderful event. So we lived in Portland, Oregon from, I think it was October of '86 until March of '87, or summer of '87. In July, we came here in the summer, I believe, of 1987 here to Minnesota. And Rob started Gopher State one call, the Utility Notification Center. So that's our kind of claim to fame. That's what brought us here. This is now 1988. We were wanting to start a family. We'd been married for about 4 years, and I got pregnant and had a miscarriage. And it was Thanksgiving of 1989, and I was devastated. 6 months later, I got pregnant again and spotted, and thought, it's going to happen again. And went to the doctor, and she said, it's a possibility. And they couldn't tell, but they did an ultrasound, and we got a heartbeat. And I was just overjoyed. So by January of 1990, Crystal Rose Galezewski was born. She was a joy. We're just thrilled to have her. So just about 16 months after Crystal was born, we came home from the hospital with Garrett on the day that she turned 16 months. I had my hands full. I was a stay-at-home mom, decided that it just was too difficult to try and balance finding daycare and whatnot, and being a mom was really important to me. I wanted to do my very best. We waited a while to have the third one, Mitchell, and he came along 4 years later in July of 1995. So I stayed home with them for those years of growing up, and we ended up moving to a little bit bigger house and a little bit better neighborhood. At that point, Rob changed jobs. There was some transition, and he decided to leave the company and pursue other organizations. At that time, I also started to want to go back to school, and it was time for me to think about how to finish my degree. I'd never finished it, so I started going to Concordia University and did their degree completion program because I had most of it, well, at least half of it done already. So I really enjoyed school, and there were 4 of us in that cohort group that wanted to continue on and go on to the master's program. 3 of them signed up. I signed up too, but Rob was really concerned about our finances because I didn't have a job at the time. And I was looking for work, and we'd already spent $10,000 to finish my undergraduate degree. We didn't want to go into more debt with 3 kids and no job. So I said, okay, I'm gonna find a way to get the money for this. I had just read the book, The Prayer of Jabez, and I knew my territory was going to be enlarged. And I said, Lord, if you want this to happen, you need to make it happen. And I called the school and I said, I know it's the first day of class and I'm not gonna be able to be there because I don't have the money for it yet, but I know I'm going to find it. And that week, my Aunt Joan came to town, and she talked and said, hey, you're going to Concordia, right? Well, you know, we have a distant cousin, Robert Poles, on the farm in Wisconsin there, in Horicon. He donates to Concordia. Maybe he'd give some money for you to go to school. I said, I haven't seen him since I was 12 years old. She said, just write a letter, you know, you're a fundraiser now, you'll know how to do this. So I wrote this beautiful letter, big, bold type, and I thought, what the heck, I'll FedEx it to him. So he should have received the package that night. So I give him a call, and he picks up the phone, and he's about 80, and he's very hard of hearing. And I explained that this is Cherryl Galezewski. I sent you a FedEx package that you received today, and I just wanted to know what your thoughts were about the letter I sent you. Oh, is that what that FedEx was about? I wasn't here. It didn't get delivered. So here I am, basically cold calling this guy on the phone, and I'm stumbling over my words and blah, 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 and he can hardly hear me, and I don't know what I'm saying. Honestly, I don't know what I all said. But by the end of it, I explained to him that I was going to Concordia and I really loved it. And I was here in Minneapolis, and we know you contribute to them, and would you consider, putting aside some of the money that you give as a scholarship for me from my master's program? And he said, sure. I don't see why we can't do that. And as I look back on it, I was a bumbling blah, blah, blah on the phone. This was nothing about Cherryl. This was about me stepping out in faith, being obedient to what I had set up to do, and following through and doing something very uncomfortable. And I didn't write a great letter and do this on my own. God did it for me. He wanted me to have that. In 2009, I found out that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And it was a little bit by accident. My thumb joints were bothering me, and my doctor said he had a brace that I could wear. And I also noticed at the same time my feet, I had plantar fasciitis at the same time. And he ordered me some orthotics, and I did that. And I thought, but I know we have a really strong history of arthritis in our family. And I did have degenerative disc disease. I had some low back pain. So I'm going to go to a rheumatologist, just see if there's anything that can be done. And I went in, and he said, you've definitely got a severe case of osteoarthritis, which will affect about 1/3 of the population. But that's that wear and tear arthritis. But he said, your wrists are really spongy. We think you might have rheumatoid arthritis as well. So they ordered some MRIs, and sure enough, the results came back. They could see that there was actual damage in my joints that couldn't be caused unless it was an inflammatory type of arthritis. I went in and had an MRI done of my neck, and I had pretty severe degenerative disc disease in my neck. My friend Linda recommended a doctor that she knew in the Twin Cities that was a cervical spine specialist, and that's all he focused on at the University of Minnesota Hospital, was those 7 bones. And I went down and saw him, and he said, yeah, it's pretty bad. There's some areas where you have no fluid actually going through. You could wait because you still can walk. If you want, but the danger in waiting is that if you're ever in an accident, you will sever the spinal cord. So I opted to go ahead and have the spinal surgery because it was bothering me a lot. Surgery went great. Not a fun surgery, but we got through it, no problem. And I was able to go back to work, and things were going really, really well. It was 6 months and 4 days after that spinal cord surgery, we had a head-on car accident. I was in the car with Rob and Mitchell driving down Highway 55, and a car crossed the center line and hit us. Both cars doing 55 miles an hour. We rolled twice. And ended facing the opposite direction, ripped off the entire rear axle of our truck. And I remember as we were twirling around, thinking, this is it. We could die right now, all of us. I thought I was going to get to do more. I thought I had a career ahead of me. I thought I was going to have grandchildren. My daughter was married, and Crystal was married and was expecting her first baby. I thought there was more, but I remember thinking, what will be, will be. It'll be okay. And when we landed, we all 3 were able to walk out of the car. Mitchell did have to crawl out the window because we couldn't get the door open, but we got out, and it was a miracle. There's absolutely no question about it. But I went back to work. Unfortunately, I the disease itself of rheumatoid arthritis began to progress, and the low back got more aggravated, and the neck got more aggravated, and the arms and the hands, and I ended up having to have multiple surgeries. Employers don't appreciate your taking time off for surgery, so I had to have infusions. So every 4 to 6 weeks, I'd have to go in and have chemotherapy, basically injected, plus take a daily medication. All kinds of stuff. It was, what are you going to do? But I was blessed because I really still didn't feel a lot of pain. I'd have bouts, but not horrible, nothing I couldn't deal with. As a result of all of those things kind of escalating, my employer encouraged me to take long-term disability after 2 years. And I did have a plan in place, which I never expected to have to take, but they paid for. Had I known, I'd have bumped it up to the 60% mark. So I went out on disability. It was kind of an ugly process because they wanted to get rid of a problem employee, basically. So when I went out on the disability, they tried to deny the claim. So I had no income, mounting medical bills. And then my husband, Rob, lost his job. And we were faced with just so many trials and tribulations. I had some other complications, had to have a fairly emergency hysterectomy, worried about cancer. Everything felt like it was just coming in. And I didn't know what to do. I knew God was there, and I didn't know why we were going through this. Why was all of this happening to us? And we were humbled. And it got to the point where money was so tight, we didn't know what to do. Something's going to happen. Oh, my disability is going to come through any day. The car accident's going to settle any day. Rob's going to get a job. It'll work out. And the day came where one of those things had to happen. I began to paint. I needed something to just make me feel something. I felt so empty inside. And as I spread the bright colors, bright colored flower bouquets, I felt something inside. It wasn't faith, it wasn't anything, it was just a feeling. I was so numb prior to that. And I began painting more and more. And I began collecting these bouquets of bright colored flowers because they made me feel something again. One day, an idea popped into my head. Why not create art? Find other artists or reprints of your art and make them intended to pass along and record on the back the journey that it makes. I thought, this is brilliant. That's what I'm going to do. It was a lot of work. And my friend Marie said, if God wants this to happen, because I really felt at my core this was a calling. I'd heard a message and I was supposed to do this. She said, if he wants this to happen, he's going to make it drop in your lap. And I let it go. I wore out. I said, that's it. I won't do it anymore. And I'll wait. And God, you're going to have to put it in my lap. Eventually, somebody suggested the idea of creating smaller versions of these same designs. And why not make them so that any printer could produce them, and then on the back, they could co-brand with it, customize the design, and send a special greeting, and then fill in and send them to their customers, and then they can get regifted over and over. And that's been the model that we've started working with now. And we are seeing businesses that want to purchase hundreds at a time and send them to their customer base. Real estate agents that give them as welcome home to your new home gifts. I've produced them into metal and just make them on a simple little stand. And on the back, you have that pass along concept. I hid the word joy in all of my paintings as a reminder to people. Joy is always there. Sometimes we have to look for it. None of my life has really worked out the way I thought it would, but it is good. And today is good. And I wake up every day with the ability to look for the good in the day, to seek an opportunity to do something more meaningful than this short existence. God's mercies are there. So speaking to my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, I was told once by my eye doctor what grandchildren are. And I really believe it. Grandkids are your reward for not killing your own. And I enjoy them so much. And I pray for you already. I want so much for you. And the most important blessing I want you to know about. This life is temporary. It is a trust. You've been entrusted with a life to manage. You've been given things that you're going to be tested with. It's a test. And it's a temporary assignment. I will see you again one day. And I want you to know that. That's the most important thing. Find your relationship with God. The most important thing I have to say, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, because it's important. We will see each other again one day. This is a temporary assignment. You're preparing for bigger and better things, and we will be together again.